Hello, my name is Henriette and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, I'd love to have you here. We've finally had some half decent weather in London, so it's time for me to get gardening. I found these gorgeous pots at a reclamation yard and I thought they would look just perfect by our front door. They were only £30 each. I'm going to start off by putting some stones and pebbles in the bottom of the pots, and then I'm going to fill them up with some really good soil. I'm making sure the soil is all loose and that there are no big clumps. I'm going to start off by putting some dianthus in the center of the pot. Carefully remove the plant from its pot and then gently tease out the roots a little bit before planting it into the pot. I'm not a professional gardener, however I have had an interest in gardening for the last 30 years. I ended up putting 3 dianthus in the center. I chose ivy for the outer circle of the pots. Now I'm going to plant 3, but I reckon they will look really nice if they trail down the pot a little bit. I'm going to put some violas in between the ivies. I've been looking for such a long time to find something that would fit nicely with the house in our porch, and I'm so pleased that I found these pots. I've left a bit of a mess, so I better clear up. We have got plans to change out these tiles in the porch. They get very slippery when it rains, so they're not very safe. A quick drink for the new plants and the job is done. I am so pleased with the way these pots turned out, and they're only going to get better. A nice welcome for our visitors. Now it's time for some work in our back garden. Now we have over 100 hydrangeas surrounding the lawn. This variety is limelight and they are due for some pruning. We planted these hydrangeas a few years ago and they are well established. So I'm going to start off by cutting 1/3 of the main stems down. I'm cutting just above a shoot or a node. I'm getting rid of these tiny little branches because they are no good for the plants. I totally redesigned this garden when we moved in because it'd been left for what seemed like about 40 years. There was an awful lot of hollies that was shooting up everywhere and ivy. I really wanted to create a garden that was sympathetic to the house. At this point, it's the easiest to do some weeding. Now I go old school and literally pull them up by the roots. I also get rid of all the leaves surrounding the base of the plant. This is because I want to feed them a little later on. And it looks like we've had a visitor from next door. They have a lot of hens. Time to get my husband to cut our Portuguese laurel hedge. I find it a bit hard to handle this big saw, however, I'm okay with a little one. This little hedge at the front is euronymous. Time for me to tidy up. I believe gardening is good for us. It provides a sort of gentle exercise. I'm going to feed the hydrangeas to ensure that we get a good bloom later on in the year. My last job here is to cover the exposed ground with strolch. Now this is an organic matter which helps keep the weeds at bay. Now it may look bare, but it won't be long before it's all green and covered with beautiful large white hydrangeas. Rupert has been keeping me company all day long, and he thought it was time that he got a kiss. Our raised beds also need a bit of attention, and I'm going to start off by pruning this rosemary bush. It's almost finished flowering, so I'm a little bit early, but I'm going to go ahead. Next, I'm going to ensure that our raised beds are weed free. Now it's time to get the soil ready for new vegetables. I start off by aerating and spreading out the soil there's already there, and then I add some fresh soil with some more nutrients. I ensure that the fresh compost is mixed in really well, and then I give the bed a really good feed. I was going to plant some seeds, but the rain came, so I've come inside instead, and I've decided to bake a cake. I'm baking an old favourite of ours, which is a Pampered chef recipe, and it's called a Pecan pastry ring. I first came across this at a Pampered chef party, and I got to say it's very easy to make and the results are really good. I really like this one because it's not that unhealthy. There's brown sugar in it but no white sugar, and it's really nice for breakfast with a bit of natural yogurt, or you can have it as a dessert, either served with ice cream or crème fraîche. It also works really well as a treat when you come in after gardening. I'll make sure I leave the recipe below. This recipe also works really well with walnuts instead of pecan nuts. I'll use a bit of vegetable oil so that the cake won't stick, but you can also use baking paper, it works just as well. I really like having some homemade baked goods at the ready, just in case we get some drop-in visitors. I use eating apples, either Empire or Gala, they will do really well, but pick a red-skinned apple. Now it's time to put everything together, and I like this stage because it reminds me of a burst of sunshine. As I fold the dough over, I make sure that it's tucked in underneath. Into the oven, and then we just have to be patient. And here it is, just in time for my husband coming back home. I'm going to sprinkle it with a bit of Canadian maple syrup, but you could also use caramel or toffee flavoured dessert sauce. I'm going to serve it with a good old-fashioned English cup of tea. Doesn't that look appetizing and so pretty? My lovely mother-in-law came to visit us for a few days, and she's great to have around because she gives us so many tips on how best to garden. She has a wealth of knowledge. Together we managed to plant so many seeds and seedlings ready for a good summer harvest. The potatoes we planted a little while ago are coming along nicely. And look at all these pots, which will hopefully give us some tomatoes, cucumbers, courgettes, lots of different herbs. We try everything here. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe, comment and like. It means the world to me, and I love hearing from you.